All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome into today's edition of In the Game. I am your host, Hustle, and as always, we'll be diving into the NFT gaming landscape as I'm joined by one of my absolute favorite projects in the space. The studio head, Don Norbury from Shrapnel, is going to join me. We're going to go over top to bottom what we saw in the trailer, what we saw from the gameplay, talk about gameplay loops, what you can expect inside the ecosystem. I think we're all stoked to kind of get our hands on it eventually as well, see if I can pry some alpha out of him. But without further ado, let's get in the game.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
If you ain't here to hustle, why is you here? But if you here to hustle, the moon is near. It's crypto Banter, not financial advice. If you don't listen, what's the cost, what's the price? This ain't a game, put you on game. I know we gon' play, but ain't a percent. If you ain't here to hustle, why is you here? But if you here to hustle, the moon is near. It's crypto Banter, not financial advice. If you don't listen, what's the cost, what's the price? This ain't a game, put you on game. I know we gon' play, but ain't here to play. If you get lost, show you the way.
All right, and let's dive right into it. Be sure to drop a like on the video if you're bullish on Shrapnel and the future of NFT gaming, and subscribe to the channel down below for videos here every single day on Crypto Banter. And shout out to our sponsors quickly: Myria, one of the leading Web3 gaming platforms and studios in the space; Animoca Brands, the largest Web3 gaming company in the world; Unix, one of the leading infrastructures in all of Web3 gaming; MEXC, the official exchange of the In the Game show; and Spintop, the official gaming index with their Gamepedia, their Guildmaker. So let's go ahead and bring on our guest today, Don from Shrapnel. And I'm super stoked because we had you on, we did kind of a roundtable, and we kind of got bits and pieces. And now it's kind of more, we get to go in depth on the game and just kind of see exactly what you guys are building. And now we kind of see it with the gameplay and the trailer. So once again, thanks for taking the time, and super stoked to dive into it with you today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And yeah, there's always more and more interesting things to talk about as time goes on, right?
Definitely. And I think there's been a lot of evolutions, that we've been able to see now. People were asking so long, when gameplay, when trailer, et cetera.
Yep.
And you guys definitely delivered on that. So first and foremost, I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself for anyone who might not know your background or what you're doing with Shrapnel, as well as introduce Shrapnel in your own words.
Yeah, for sure. Don Norbury, studio head for Shrapnel. I've been making AAA games for something like 20 years now, I guess, or coming close on 20 years. Everything from sports titles like Madden and NASCAR to film stuff like Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and then did some time on BioShock and Sunset Overdrive and Crackdown. So some stuff people have heard of. Shrapnel at its heart is a AAA extraction FPS that has a rich set of user creation tools, so people can build their own cosmetics, people can build their own maps, and then of course they can either use them or share them, or in the case of maps, have other people play them and experience their content. And everything's built from the ground up. The entire design, the entire way that we've crafted everything with blockchain in mind and a utility token in mind.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The map concept too. That is absolutely amazing. And I think it goes back, for me, it's like Halo 3 Forge. So explain what it means, like whenever the term I think is moddable. It's like a moddable first-person shooter. So if you want to kind of explain what that means for someone who might be either new to the genre or has never had that experience.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's a great question because it can mean a lot of different things to different people. And certainly if you looked historically over the years at what that's meant, it's changed over time. So for Shrapnel, that means that you can put your brand on things from a cosmetics perspective. Eventually, not right out of the gate, eventually it's also ingesting your own custom meshes. So the expression of what people will be able to do will be more and more as time goes on. And that'll be the same case for maps as well. Initially, it's very much like prefab style, where you get to kind of construct the space using a bunch of pieces that we give you. But as time goes on, that'll also involve artists being able to ingest their own prefabs. We effectively want to just ensure that people have the highest chance of success possible for making quality content. Making good stuff is hard. Like, we get it, we certainly get it, and we want to make sure that everybody can get into it at whatever altitude they're familiar with and comfortable with. So that's sort of, when we think about Moddable, and the evolution of that over the course of the project's life cycle. That's how we think about it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And this is so this model is so perfect for like Web3 and decentralization, as
Absolutely.
the community can come in and build these maps and potentially be rewarded for the participation on those maps. It's fantastic. I think just the thought process behind that. Some of the most talented people in these studios who might be map developers can come in and absolutely decentralize their experience and their profession potential. Like, there's just so much cool opportunities there. And it's so Web3 to be able to give it that user-generated content and that content creator appeal and the desire to do so. So I think it's a fantastic model. And with the first-person shooter, I think it's the best genre in the world, personally. Let's start off. Go ahead.
Yeah, and as I say, an extraction shooter, it's like Battle Royale is what everybody's doing now. That's been evergreen design pastures for five plus years, I suppose it's been at this point.
Yeah.
The extraction piece on top of the UGC that you've already talked about, the extraction piece also lends itself really well to that kind of like ownership and trade up of your loadout and the equipment that you have. It kind of has that like RPG-ish notion is how we think about it internally.
Yeah.
It's kind of where RPG meets the shooter genre.
And I think the extraction shooter kind of blends the two worlds together almost. It's kind of a battle royale in a sense, but it's
but with multiple winners.
Yes,
right?
like it's got different formats to it, right? But it kind of blends the best of both worlds of like the traditional game modes, the Slayers, those type of game modes where in the gun skill, gunplay, all that obviously comes into play. So I think it's like the best of both worlds inside of that type of a game. So explain the gameplay loop for someone who would be new to an extraction shooter compared to a battle royale, as you said, because there might be concepts that are similar, but they're definitely not the same.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference right out of the gate is you decide what you bring with you when you enter a session, right? No battle royale game, most of the battle royale games, you're getting dropped in as naked as everyone else, and you're figuring it out as you go along, and it's about that intra-session evolution. So with the extraction game, you're picking your loadout, you're defining how you're going to approach a session before you ever drop into that session. And then over the course of it, you're basically trying to get stuff out, right? And that is a generically extraction genre statement.
Right.
For Shrapnel specifically, our creative director would use the words that every session is a story. It's not just like go find an extraction point and get out there like Escape from Tarkov does. There are actually story beats, kind of a 3-part story beats over the course of a session that allow people to define their risk and reward threshold. So some people are going to want to stay in to the very end and wait to extract to the very end and wait for those moments. Some people, newer players or players who are more about kind of like farming things and accumulating their arsenal, probably going to extract more towards the beginning of the session. But we're effectively creating a story over each session that allows people to choose, do I want to go over here and risk more and get more, or do I want to try and get out on the first bucket, basically?
Yeah, makes sense. I love it. And the mechanics of an extraction shooter are so fun. Like the end game is a lot of fun, and obviously trying to get that extraction. And so whenever we're looking at the trailer, I think we'll talk about the trailer first. This to me just spoke everything to the background of the team, right? The HBO interactive experience, and y'all definitely didn't disappoint with this whatsoever. And I think the environments. So what led up to this, right? You guys were teasing a lot of environments on Twitter, and they looked so amazing. But then to see it in Unreal Engine 5 put together, like, it was absolutely awesome to see. Like, are these the level of like map designs and structures that we can expect in game? And obviously we'll show the gameplay, and I think it definitely is. But this is so detailed for how long you guys have been working on the project.
Yeah, there's a lot to that statement, right? Especially when you think about user-generated content in this space, right? This is an environment we were able to meticulously craft.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, we come from that background. We also have done virtual production work for Hollywood, so we like fully get not just game development but set design as well. And also, like you said, this is entirely done in Unreal 5.
So
Uh,
cool.
so when you think about people constructing these spaces themselves and the UGC elements, I think a lot of the maps you'll see at the beginning will be a little more like recombinations of set pieces. Whereas with this sort of cinematic, like the level of detail and
Yeah,
everything,
of course.
we were able to amp that way up, right? But so
Yeah.
when you saw stuff like the gameplay afterwards, when we were like, we were literally like, can we do a multiplayer session in this environment? And there were some hurdles that we had around it, like you got to make sure collision works the right way everywhere and all that sort of fun stuff. But ultimately, it works. It renders the way that we wanted. We were able to, based on our framework, which we're pretty proud of, able to get a multiplayer session up and running effectively, quickly in the space. And with little effort around making sure things like the level of details existed, not just at a cinematic level, but also appropriate for gameplay environment. So it's not going to just destroy your GPU.
You're right. Yeah, because that is a problem, obviously, with the GPUs, and they're already in high demand in the gaming scene, and a lot of there's people who
It's
have
better. Yeah, it's
yeah
getting better now with the 440 series coming out. You can
yeah.
actually go buy video cards now.
But then looking at the gameplay, the environments definitely don't disappoint whatsoever. Once again, like there's so much detail. I would say y'all need to get a new recruit behind the controller, missing some shots at the beginning.
Yeah.
But I think other than that, like talk about is this what level? This is obviously the very first level of alpha gameplay. For people who don't know, how long has Shrapnel been in production? Because I think that's the most impressive part. Like you guys have been just building in this bear market, and nothing's getting like in the way of that. And then to see this product and you're willing to put this out so early in the development timeline for people to see.
Yeah, for sure. We actually just celebrated our 1 year not that long ago. But granted, the beginning of that 1 year was just a few of us, right? It was just the founders effectively like creating this, taking this twinkle in an eye and getting the momentum to build a team. So I would say, in terms of heavy production, Shrapnel's probably been going on for about 6 to 8 months now.
Got it.
For like any AAA game, you spend a long time just building not just the team, but the framework that allows you to iterate
Concept
quickly.
framework. Yep.
Yeah, you need to be able to tune things on the fly. You need to be able to distribute builds like multiple times a day to the team, so you can do play tests. There's all these kind of pieces that all feed into one thing, which is be able to tear it down as quickly as possible and build it back up, and be able to tune as quickly as possible and iterate as quickly as possible. The more times you can do that, the higher quality product you're going to have no matter what. So you take a lot of time and diligence making sure you have that underlying framework at the beginning. We have that in spades now, right? We're able to do all of, like, our design team can whip out 5 different radically different weapons just at a moment's notice without needing an engineer, right? They can go in there and kind of like just play with stuff, perfecting how long it takes for you to encounter another person, what your speed of traversal is, like different styles of inventory systems, the way the weapons behave. Like we can do all of that stuff to find and refine the way Shrapnel feels. And this was the gameplay you were showing is very like cinematic style of art. In game dev, you kind of do both at the same time, right? You do like art, look development and art development, and then you do kind of gray boxy game design, where the design team needs to be able to move stuff around quickly, change the shapes of stuff, sight lines, build like how many floors are on a building, etc. They can't wait for like an art team to come in and build like a completely new arted up skyscraper, right? So both of those things are happening at the same time. And what you saw here was let's take a high fidelity art and the gameplay and merge them together. But a lot of the iteration that the design team does is like less pretty looking. We'll put it that way, right? Like the gameplay is super snappy and it looks great, but the art is not in this. And then we kind of merge them together as it gets more and more locked down on the design side. The art team comes in and makes the art environment match the block out. They start to tell a story with the art, and it's not like they throw it over the fence. Like they're talking to each other the entire time, but it frees them both up to do what they do best, and then decide the time to bring it all together.
Yeah, it makes complete sense, and that's such an impressive feat to have put out this level of product in that time period. 6 to 8 months, like you said, of like hard development, which that just speaks volumes to you guys' experience and the level of like I said earlier, like ignoring the conditions, ignoring the sentiment, letting things play out on the other side, build the product, and everything else will fall into place. And I mean, the product is looking spectacular at this point. Never would hold you to any like timeline, because I'm always of the premise anyway of under promise, over deliver.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we hold ourselves to timelines internally, but
yeah, exactly. So when could maybe people expect to get a play test of the game, maybe some early alpha, like game builds? Like, is there a timeline potentially when you guys are aiming to try to get that out for maybe operators, holders, or anything like that?
Yeah, there is. Again, it's an internal timeline, but I would say sometime around the beginning of next year.
Okay.
That is, our entire game team is focused on that, right? It is the public multiplayer playable.
Awesome.
And to be distributed widely, and certainly to have early access for people like our Echo company and our operators holders.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that is the laser focus. We have moved beyond that pre-production of the underlying systems and into like that thing that people can play. That is the first element that we have a notion of certain like leaderboards and everything around, and also to get not just objective like telemetry feedback so that we understand how our tuning works, but also the subjective feedback from the community.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you guys are doing a great job of that. And then allowing the content creation, the user generated content. I think it's one of the most empowering ecosystems building in Web3 gaming. And, the product is looking fantastic, like I said. And I'm a first person shooter junkie. So I personally can't wait, for this to get out there in people's hands and get a feel for it myself. What are you most excited about in the Shrapnel ecosystem going on right now? There's got to be something that's just really got you fired up. I mean, you guys are hard at work every single day, and obviously just pushing this out and getting it done has got to be exciting. But like along the journey, like what's been the most exciting, and then what are you most excited about right now?
Gosh, it's hard to pick because we are firing on all cylinders right now.
Exactly.
And everybody is just delivering exciting stuff. It feels like every day internally, at least. So it is hard to pick. I'd say, the game is always going to be front and center. If the game's not fun and sticky, and doesn't, and within the first like 10 seconds of playing a game, whether it's going to be something that you play a couple weeks from now, to see that make the strides that it has just like almost on a daily basis is definitely the energetic part. The whole ecosystem, I think, around it's a drier topic, but the economic design, the discovery systems, because when we talk about creating content, the immediate next thing you have to talk about and not solve, but make work better is content discovery, content promotion, how these like natural networks of people come to attach themselves to a creator, a curator, a promoter. Like, how do you know about the content being made when there's tons of it being made? It's the app, the app store problem, basically. So
Twitch has a huge discoverability problem.
Yeah. So our approach to that, I'm super excited. That also refines itself almost on a daily basis in terms of new, interesting ways that people can connect and communicate and promote. So like that's exciting to me as well. And then even the blockchain technical side of what we're doing around interoperable smart contracts, the subnet development work that we're doing on Avalanche, like. It's really hard to pick, and really, like you talked about the creator tool stuff as well. People will have their hands on some versions of the creator tools before they can even play the game.
Makes sense, and that makes complete sense. Like a sandbox almost iteration where you can go and build those maps out in a lower render setting, probably.
Yeah, and also, the cosmetics will be the first thing that hit. Like letting people put their brand on stuff.
That'll be so sick. Yeah,
and it's the most accessible, right? Like building a map, even in a we're holding your hand way is still a lot, right? It's a lot for people to download an editor. It's got to be on like PC. It's pretty heavy. Whereas the stuff we're doing with the lowest level of cosmetics, you can totally just do on your phone. Kind of build up your brand, share stuff out, mint it there. So it's like we're hitting everything from all of the different angles and vectors of how people might approach it and what their interests are. But those creator tools will definitely be things people can get their hands on early.
Breaking ground on what I think is something that's undertapped from traditional games. Even if you look at like the Activision, they sell the Call of Duty skins, but they don't empower creators individually to submit a skin, put it out there, and then what if their community buys X amount of it? They should be able to have a reward system from that. It's just the same thing. That's what decentralization could bring to it too, is these opportunities for creators to actually bring their brands to their to their audiences who also love to play these games. So I did one of the last things I wanted to ask you before we kind of wrap it up is whenever you look at the future of the industry, like how big do you think that these integrations, these type of economics, do you think it's going to potentially, your theory on, will it be the new model 5 years from now inside of Epic Games, Steam, all these distributors, or will it be a segment of gaming forever? Like, where do you see this going as far as that goes? Do you think that with the innovation and the money, specifically $7 billion coming into Web3 gaming over the first 3 quarters of this year, where do you see this adoption going? Is it going to be a portion of gaming? Do you think it's going to overtake the model? What's your opinion on that?
I think from a like a revenue perspective, it'll overtake. I don't think it's for all games, at least not from a integration heavily into the game perspective. You don't want, I don't see a world where like Last of Us or God of War have heavy Web3 integration. I do see a world where indie games, especially, I think early on, can get kind of greenlit and funded via community interaction and just different ways that they can get people like interested and really like investing to a certain degree in creation, which changes the publishing model. It changes how indie creators can get funding, right? So I do think when you think about like single player games, there's maybe a space for Web3 there in the like funding space, but certainly not in like the ownership or economics. I think you'll see the Last of Us of the world continue to have the same funding, publishing, and distribution.
Because it doesn't make sense for the model of the game. Yeah,
absolutely. But I do think, I don't necessarily think Web3 will take over free to play either, right? Like the unidirectional funnels, we're starting to see pieces of experimentation in that space, how you can make free to play effectively work and not tip over economically in the future. I don't know if it'll completely overtake that either. I think you'll see a blend for a little while. Ultimately, everything we're doing, and this is the exciting part, is a grand experiment right now. Like, we're doing our best, modeling everything, being diligent about it, being reactive, and getting good data and making good decisions. But it's this is the cutting edge, so we'll see over the next few years if these economic models are viable. And then, like, I'm excited to see the next versions of what people come out with. We keep a close eye on that and are all about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you guys are definitely at the forefront of it. And I think your ecosystem, the game, the team behind it, you guys definitely have all the ammunition to be able to bring this, to the next level of adoption, in my opinion. The game, the trailer, everything y'all shipped so far has been fantastic. And I expect nothing less in the future. Where can people find Shrapnel? Twitter, join the Discord, obviously follow your Twitter here as well. Where can people, get involved with Shrapnel?
Yeah, I mean, the website is a great like hub of things. Definitely follow on Twitter. The link tree on there can allow you to hit all the spaces. We have an active community on Discord that is just like delightfully positive and energetic, that we're hoping to keep that way. We actually do a lot of work to keep that way. So like all of those are the big pieces. Yeah, I mean, definitely click and follow me if you want as well. I appreciate the the marketing on that front. And those are the main pieces. We're going to start moving as well towards doing kind of project updates, as well as kind of YouTube streaming and VOD content.
Fantastic.
So definitely going to be heading into that space soon. We've kind of had the first swings of that internally at the studio with what our like camera production and film production process looks like, so we can refine that over time. But that'll be the next thing to hit. Will certainly be our YouTube channel.
That's fantastic. I'm really excited for that because I think that you guys have the firepower to do it right, and you make some really quality content, and the community is going to love that. So, Don, thank you for taking time. I know you are super busy behind the scenes with Shrapnel. So once again, thank you so much for joining me and taking the time. If you guys enjoyed the video, if you are bullish on Shrapnel, be sure to drop down and hit the like button, follow their Twitter, hop in their Discord. I would definitely say one of the best communities in all of Web3 gaming. Subscribe to the channel for daily videos here on Crypto Banter. I'll be back on Wednesday with another show. As always, play well, my friends.
Mm-hmm.